Latin American countries gained independence from Spain and Portugal in the early 1800s. However, despite being part of the global trade system and having a capitalistic economic structure, they have not been able to replicate the development and industrialization that Europe and the United States have achieved. As a result, these countries are still considered underdeveloped, with lower living standards and limited political and personal freedom compared to their neighbors to the north. In the early 1960s, Latin America's per capita income was more than double that of East Asia. And today, the region lags significantly behind. Several Asian countries that started from low-income levels 50 years ago, such as South Korea, Singapore, Taiwan, and Hong Kong, have become developed nations. No country in Latin America can be named developed, although a few are higher middle income. Poverty in Latin America is a multifaceted problem influenced by various factors. The region's history of colonization, unequal distribution of land and resources, and the exploitation of natural resources have had long-lasting impacts. Political instability, corruption, and economic policies have also contributed significantly to the issue. Suriname, Bolivia, and Venezuela have the highest poverty rates per population. Some political shifts have led to improvements in these countries. During the imperial period, Spain imposed a command economy and authoritarian political system on its colonies in the New World. This system led to trade monopolies in agriculture, mining, and commerce that were imposed throughout the territories under the sway of the rulers in far-off Madrid. Ruthless and corrupt imperial governors worked closely with an imported and privileged aristocracy that claimed complete power over all whom they ruled, whether they were native Indians or colonists brought over from Spain or other parts of its world empire. In addition, social inequalities, limited access to education and healthcare, and restricted economic opportunities have perpetuated poverty in the region. To address these challenges, social and economic reforms are necessary, alongside investments in education and infrastructure, and initiatives that promote sustainable development and inclusive growth. Latin America is a predominantly tropical region, with over 70% of its landmass falling within the tropics. This presents several challenges, as the region is more vulnerable to diseases such as malaria, yellow fever, dengue, and cholera. Additionally, the region's distance from key markets makes transport and trade more difficult. After gaining independence, most of the nations in Latin America adopted a civil law tradition in contrast to the standard law system. A common law system, where judges have a more active role, has been found to be more conducive to economic growth and development. The agricultural sector in Latin America is dominated by large-scale plantations. However, in the northern regions, there is more mixed farming centered on grains and livestock, with smaller units. This has led to more democratic political institutions, stronger protection of property rights, and a larger middle class. While some countries in Latin America have abundant mineral and agricultural resources, such as Colombia, Venezuela, Brazil, and Mexico, their large populations make it difficult for their governments to distribute wealth evenly. Conversely, some nations in the region, such as Haiti, Costa Rica, and French Guiana, have limited natural resources and have struggled to increase their GDP as a result. Brazil is the largest economy in Latin America and an important player on the global stage. Historically, Brazil's economy was heavily reliant on exports of raw materials such as coffee and soybeans. However, over time, the Brazilian economy has diversified into various sectors, including technology and aerospace. Only Brazil, Mexico, and Argentina have significant manufacturing sectors, which provide skilled jobs and create further employment opportunities. The rest of the countries in the region rely mainly on resource extraction and exportation, agriculture, and tourism, which do not generate substantial wealth for the majority of the population. The drug trade from South America to the United States has hindered the growth of several countries along the route. In addition to corruption, violence is often associated with the drug trade, causing businesses to avoid areas where it occurs. Furthermore, many of the most talented individuals in various Latin American nations have turned to the lucrative drug trade instead of pursuing other, less profitable business ventures. This brain drain has had a negative impact on the economic development of these nations. Many Latin American countries have elected populist leaders who lack competence. These leaders have driven away business investment by nationalizing companies, failing to control corruption and cronyism, failing to address social problems within their nations, and failing to work on their relationship with the United States, the most powerful nation in the Americas. In the 1950s, Latin America attempted to develop through import substitution industrialization, which aimed to protect local industries from foreign competition. However, this approach failed, and these protected industries did not grow, leaving Latin America vulnerable to the debt crisis of the 1980s. Over the past 2 decades, Latin America has shifted towards a market-based approach to trade and industrial development, but this is not enough without prioritizing science and technology. Compared to the fastest-growing economies in East Asia, Latin America invests only 0.5% of its GDP in research and development, while East Asia invests about 2 to 3%. Investment in developing agricultural technologies in Latin America is also low, despite the economic importance of this industry in the region. Although there have been some improvements in certain dimensions of the labor market from 2020 to 2022, the region is currently experiencing a slow crisis in terms of labor inclusion. This includes not only the insertion of people into the labor market, but also the conditions under which they are employed, as explained by the United Nations Regional Organization. While the quality of life in the region may have improved overall in the past few decades, there are still areas of extreme poverty that require a different approach, specifically in Haiti and the highlands of South and Central America. In 2022, 54 million households in the region, which represent 39% of the total, depended exclusively on informal employment. Additionally, the majority of children under 15 years old and people over 65 years old live in households that are either completely informal or mixed. In Latin America, the income of the top 10% of earners is 20 times higher than that of the lowest 10%. According to the Economic Commission for Latin America and the Caribbean, in 2021, the wealth of just 105 individuals made up nearly 9% of the region's gross domestic product. Most of Latin America has not fully embraced globalization or international trade. Brazil and Argentina have remained among the most closed economies in the world, with trade accounting for less than 30% of their GDP. Over the past 30 years, the economies of Latin America have become less diverse in terms of the goods they produce. Mexico is the only country in Latin America that has been able to diversify its economy away from commodities. Natural resources account for about 25% of its exports, whereas in the rest of the region, that figure is 60% or higher. In countries like Venezuela, where dependence on natural resources is extreme, this figure is over 90%. Latin American countries can capture the economic and commercial dynamism that has led to growth and prosperity in other parts of the world by building and expanding their connections in the new global context emerging in the 2020s. However, achieving this will necessitate significant changes in areas such as education, automation, and public investment, as well as a shift in mindset in some countries. This was our report on Latin America. Please like, share, and subscribe to our channel for more exciting videos. Thank you.